Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video.
Well, welcome to Wednesday, the 5th of October, 2022 here at Giga Texas. For today, we start off very early, in fact, well before the sun rises, and I have some very interesting views, one of which I've been wanting to show you for quite some time. As you can see in this image here, on the north end, the Berm lighting is now active, and it gives a very interesting and a very beautiful view of Giga Texas, particularly from the drone on the north looking to the south. And as you can see here, it's very nice to see that operational. Then we move over to the casting machine structure, and I give you some more views inside. Now, I was hoping to be able to see any signs of the new IDRA 9,000 ton Giga Press, but I can't say that I saw any of that. Although over the last several days we've been seeing some pretty large deliveries to this section. But as you can see here, all of these large crates with some of the blue tarps up near the DMG MORI milling machines is what has been delivered, and it's on the north end of the structure, well away from where the foundations for the 9,000 ton Giga Press would be. Also, while I was up in the north end, you can see that there's still a lot of scaffolding around the concrete columns on this end. This is also where they removed several of the bridge crane rails and then relocated them west of the highway onto that material storage location. And I showed you that on my previous video. So I'm not sure exactly what they're doing here. If this is rework, a reconfiguration, maybe a new type of bridge crane being installed, or perhaps something else, I'm not really sure. And then we go to the south end of the casting machine structure, where I show you that the work on the foundations that we saw on the 23rd of September with all of the earthwork here has now been completed, and it looks like that entire section has had concrete around the frames. So perhaps this is a good indicator that we might see some deliveries soon for the IDRA Giga Press, but I don't really see that quite yet. The other thing I want to show you today is down on the south side. You can see that the concrete removal and demolition on that west side of the concrete lot where all the Model Ys are parked is continuing to grow, and they're taking more of the concrete out on that west side. And as we've talked in the few videos before, in the center and the east sides of this concrete ramp, they've done some saw cutting, which suggests that once they're finished with the west side, we'll start seeing some of the demolition on the center and the east side. So anyway, a lot more to see in the video today, a lot to see up at the electrical substation and at the battery cathode plant, as well as some other sites on the east side. I hope you enjoy the video and the narration throughout. And as always, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. I hope you have a great Wednesday.
My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. What a beautiful morning here on the north end of Giga Texas, and I was really excited to be able to show you for the very first time the lit up cyber berms, and I think it really adds to the overall look of Giga Texas. This is also very reminiscent of the rendering that we saw at the cyber rodeo, and on various previous videos I've kind of shown you that as well. But anyway, let's get a little bit closer and take a look inside the casting machine structure, where we see quite a bit of activity and some new developments as well. Starting here on the northeast corner, as we look inside, what you will see is a lot of these concrete columns have scaffolding around them, and they've removed the bridge crane rails. And as I mentioned, they took those over across the highway and are storing them in the material storage for right now. So I don't know if this is just a reconfiguration, if it's going to be changing because of some equipment they're going to install. Maybe there was a problem with the columns themselves, but certainly a lot of rework in this particular section to reconfigure these columns and bridge cranes. So as we continue further to the east, you can see some of the DMG MORI milling machines coming into view, almost in the center of the screen right now. And you can also see some bridge cranes and the railing system on top of that, and all the way through this entire bay. And we'll talk about some of the deliveries here in just a second. Also, you can see this scaffolding and this new structure where the workers are working on top. This is something new, and I don't know if this is an office space, a workshop, or something else that has been added in fairly recently. But as we continue to fly further east, in the East Bay you can see quite a bit of castings on the ground. You can see some of the ingots that are used for making the castings. These are what are melted inside of the furnaces. And I'll pan a little bit to the left to show you many of the castings on the ground just outside of the casting machine structure, waiting for movement to the body in white for continued processing and building of the basic bodies for the Model Ys. But as I mentioned in the intro, there's been several deliveries over the last several days of some large components, and you can see them here in these crates with the blue wrapping right next to this DMG MORI milling machine. This is what has been entering the building, and we've been trying to figure out what exactly that is. This is clearly not IDRA items. These are more related for the DMG MORI machines themselves. So unfortunately, I can't show you any of the IDRA 9,000 ton Giga Press. It has not arrived yet, but a little bit later I'll show you where the work on the foundations continue. Throughout this area you can see more materials, more of the castings sort of in the middle of the screen, some new robots that have been arrived recently. Those are the yellow ones in the middle of the screen, and some other machinery right in the middle of the casting machine structure as well, and I'm not sure exactly what some of that is. You can see the stairs in the background and also sort of a cooling unit near those stairs. And as we continue further to the south, you can see the operational Giga Presses. There are 4 of them, and also the castings right in front of the drone as well. Now something I wanted to point out also is the difference between when we saw these Giga Presses at Cyber Rodeo in April is that there's 2 more of them, and also there's quite a bit more of the white scaffolding and platforms all around. And also on the background you can see that white and red piping. That is something new as well, and it may be related to a new cooling process that helps increase the throughput for the casting machines and the processing and manufacturing of the actual castings. As we continue further to the south, you can see more of those casting machines or the Giga Presses in operation, more of the castings on the ground, and also on the floor level here right in front of the drone is where about 2 weeks ago we saw inside the construction going on with a lot of earthwork and reconfiguring the foundations. Now this area is where I believe and I think we will see the larger IDRA 9,000 ton Giga Press installed. You can see that here on the ground level, and it looks like it has been completed and concrete has been re-poured and completing that section and being ready for the arrival of the Giga Presses. So I'll continue to watch for that, and hopefully I'll have something more to report a little later in the month. But here we'll pop up on top of the roof and show you just how this whole area appears. You can see some of the cooling ducts on the left-hand side of the roof, quite a bit of the solar panels, and I will continue to pull the drone back and we'll look at the north end of the paint shop. With this lighting, you can see inside on the left-hand side on top of that platform, you can see one of the modular units that has been moved inside. Now these are very similar to these green units, or green wrapped units, and they are part of a modular painting system that is being assembled inside. You can kind of see a little bit inside this opening on top of that platform as well, and more of the green wrapped items on the ground floor. And I'll show you the 2 remaining platforms here on the north side. These are where the 4680 battery production is taking place, and you can kind of get a few views inside as well. through the openings on top of both of the platforms. So I'm going to turn the drone back towards the east and show you the progress that is going on here with the plumbing work that is continuing between the parking lot and the main road. And you can see that the plumbing process is, our installation process is nearing an end, and it looks like they are putting in forms and rebar to reestablish the walkway along this section as well. So probably by the end of the week or early next week, this section will be completed. So I'm going to proceed up over the power lines and to the east side, give you a little view of the battery cathode plant and a nice sunrise over Giga Texas before I start turning further to the north, and let's go up and take a look at the electrical substation construction site. As you can see here, more work continues on this clearing and more bulldozers helping to spread some of the dirt that's been brought in to improve the grade. So again, I'm not sure if it's a construction site or a parking lot, but it's something I continue to monitor. Here you see quite a bit of the steel corrugated stormwater pipes and some of the concrete pipes waiting for installation, and the overall look at the electrical substation graded construction site and how it is changing. And I'll take a bit of a tour on the east side, tour the north, and show you some of the various components and sections that have been added. Here you see the pipe that helps drain out the water detention pond. This is a concrete pipe, and you can see how the path of the water will drain off to the east side. And I'll proceed up to the north end to show you how it's all being cleared up. Most of the equipment has been moved away from here, and the overall general look of this area is much cleaner. There's one small trailer in the middle of this construction site. Several of the other containers up on the right hand side have been moved away. So I don't know, but it looks like they're preparing for another phase of construction in this particular section of this site. So I'm going to continue to move back towards the graded construction area, and I will show you a lot of the detail, starting on the left hand side with some of these steel poles that have been delivered. And again, some of the mounts are angled, so it will be interesting to see how these poles are mounted on the footings that you can see near the drill. And some of these poles will not be completely vertical when they're installed, it appears. This is where crews are actively making rebar cages. These will be put down into the bores that the drill will build, and then they will put in some mounts and then pour concrete in it. And then, as you can see here, these square footings contain the mounts for the steel poles. And what these crews are doing are removing the forms as all of the concrete for these footings has been completed. So maybe we'll start seeing some of those steel poles installed pretty soon. These two excavations, these kind of square excavations, haven't changed much recently, although they do have these colored flags and some of these cones around this section. So maybe we'll see some more construction on here soon. And you can see some of these steel straps just coming off the right-hand side of the screen. Nice sunrise over the battery cathode plant as we continue to look at the water detention pond and the south concrete inlet for the pipe. And here is the control house. Not only do we see the steel structure, but they're now adding the walls. So this is actually progressing quite quickly. And this will be the office, I guess, or the control room that will control all of the operations here at the new electrical substation. I've had a question from a viewer, what will happen to the temporary substation once the new one is completed? I believe that one will be dismantled, but we'll have to continue to monitor and see. Let's take a trip to the far northeast of the entire site, and I'll show you what's going on up over here. Now arrived at the far northeast section where they're using this particular location for rental equipment, some trailers. Also, there it looks like there's a workshop, a couple of other trailers for offices. And another change is on the left-hand side of the screen, and I'll try to give you a little bit better view of this. They're starting to store some materials for construction here, and you can see these on these 6 trailers right in this location. So this area is becoming more than just for equipment. You can also see there's a ramp that just passed to the left as well. So it continues to transform, and it probably suggests, as we've been speculating, that we'll see some construction in this clearing that continues to get some reconfiguration. And as you can see, they are working right in the middle section here. There's another truck loaded up with dirt and an excavator onto the right-hand side. It's a little bit early, so they haven't quite gotten to work yet. But you can see these workshops and trailers and just some locations where they're starting to store material on this clearing. So they're moving more and more to the north. Now we're at the battery cathode plant again. What I'm showing you here is you can see the yellow formworks for the perimeter grade beam on the north end. The perimeter grade beam is basically the basis for the walls, and that's where the concrete wall panels will rest on as they install them into the main building. On the left side, you can see another area with the yellow moisture barriers being prepared for concrete to extend that slab further to the north. I'll kind of meander on the west side so you can see how the material storage is looking today, the 2 temporary platforms, and with the light coming through from the sun, you can see quite a bit of the studs for interior walls and also more interior walls. Really fitting out that entire structure from the inside out very quickly. This new concrete apron is where I believe there's going to be a tank farm. You can see all the risers for the electrical conduit and plumbing. You can see the concrete vaults on the left-hand side next to the building as well. And you can see where crews continue to add rebar amongst the formwork in preparation for the concrete. You can see more of the wall panels have been installed on this side by the crane and another one getting ready to go. And this clearing on the right-hand side, just underneath the drone, is starting to get a kind of a gravel mixture on it. Usually they do that to improve the soil so that they can put materials and equipment and drive on it without creating too much mud. I'll bring the drone around so you can see a different view of that section, and you can see how they're improving that clearing. You can also see the progress on the wall panels on this south end, 4 loading bays or receiving docks and 2 large doors or doorways for people, it looks like. You can also see this blue plumbing pipe has been stockpiled here. And just to the right bottom of the screen, there is some excavation work, and I'm going to come back to show you a closer view of that in just a few minutes. As we continue towards the north now on the east side, I'll give you a view into this very tall open section, and it also has a very heavily reinforced foundation. I think this again is where we're going to see some large furnaces installed in the very near future, at least as long as the wall panels will allow us to see inside. The crane is preparing for installing more of the wall panels, and also notice that they have extended the wall panel installation to about the midpoint of the structure now, which is very interesting to see how they are approaching the wall panel installation. Now they may be allowing for spaces in the wall panels for large equipment to be installed first before closing up the building. Here you see these 3 very deep and heavily reinforced foundations. Looks like they are now putting rebar in, so we should see concrete pretty soon. And again, you can see that ground slab here where they're preparing for more concrete. I'm going to fly up over the roof section, give you a nice view through both of the cranes, and then I'm going to reposition to show you the excavation work going on at the southeast corner of the battery cathode plant, and where they're installing quite a bit of these blue water pipes. And as you can see, they're stored by the walls, and they're now doing these trenches and installing these large water pipes. I believe that this is for drinkable water based on the color of the pipes, but if viewers have a different opinion, I'd like to see your comments in the video description as well, or in the comment section. I'll reposition over here just to show you some changes on this structure. They've added concrete around the south base. They've added a sort of a metal tent-like structure. And again, I'm not sure what this structure is for, but I'll continue to monitor this development. I want to show you over by the Warehouse on Wheels yard another section getting grade work to improve this section, raise the grade, and probably connect it to the Warehouse on Wheels for yet another expansion. So they continue to increase the ability to have more and more trailers over in this Warehouse on Wheels yard. Again, I think that's a good sign related to production. And speaking of production, I'll show you the new car staging and transportation lot. We see quite a few Model Ys here, a couple of trucks that are picking up the Model Ys as we speak. And as I will show you on the south end a little later, more and more Model Ys are exiting the end of the factory and working their way over here. So production is probably still at that 2 to 250 per day, but it's really hard to judge from the little bit that I can sit and watch with the drone. So we'll continue to monitor how that ramp continues. I'm bringing you back over to the east side of the factory, showing you that secondary entrance, and on the right hand side of the screen, 3 more cargo bays or receiving docks that are being added in, and inside the glass you can see more castings are being stored inside that section, which is something they've been doing for the last month and a half or 2 months. Very interesting. You can see more of the solar panels in the pallets waiting for installation, and I'll give you a closer view of this work that they're doing to prepare for HVAC ventilation ducts. You can see kind of this structure on top of the beams on the roof section that have been exposed, and I think that this is sort of a reinforced section that will allow for equipment and ducting to eventually be installed. And it's something I'll just continue to monitor and show you as developments warrant. I'll position the drone for a view of the west side of the factory, and you can see on the left hand side on the roof more solar panels waiting for installation. And you can also see quite a bit of trailers that are up at the receiving docks now. It's great to see as that this is part of the general assembly that is going on the left side of the screen. As we continue to get closer to the main entrance and this section that they're continuing to landscape, I can show you that more and more of the plants have been moved away from the temporary storage in the middle and are being planted in the dirt around this section. So clearly this is a landscaped feature for the main entrance, and I'm really curious to see how it will look when it is completed. The main entrance itself continues to show some sort of construction going on inside. You can see the fence protecting the glass doors, and the glass doors have that white and red wrapping as well. Let's proceed back towards the south of the building along the section where we have all of these new receiving docks. You can see they're all being used. Very many trailers on this particular section, and this interesting delivery. Not exactly sure what these are, but here's a close view. So if you have any thoughts, let me see those in the comments as well. As we exit the southwest corner of the building, I'll show you the continued progress on this concrete demolition and removal. What you see now is that crews have cross-cut and are now breaking up the concrete in this part of the concreted lot. And it looks to me, based on what we're seeing here, that eventually the entire concrete lot will be removed, and that suggests that it's more than just a small reconfiguration of this west side as we've been seeing develop over time, but it suggests that the entire concrete will be removed, which means to me it means that we're going to be seeing a large major construction project going on, and I will continue to monitor that. I know some people have strong opinions one way or the other, but I'm just showing you what I see going on at the actual site right now. On the right hand side of the screen coming into the center, you can see this section that has been saw cut kind of in an L shape. That also suggests that this section is being prepared for demolition at some point. They still are using this area for some of the Model Ys as a temporary staging location, but that's going to have to come to an end once the concrete removal moves to that section. Here you see more of the solar panels on the ground just going underneath the drone. And I want to show you this side of the stamping machine structure. These green and white wrapped items are part of the AIDA stamping or machine to do metal forming. And that's going to be going in that south end at the stamping extension at some point. This is another section that has been cross-cut. You can also see the sort of the red or orange markings that will show where further cross-cutting is going to happen. Also, we see this crane and crews on this temporary platform. It looks like they are actually starting to prepare to use it somewhere. So, been monitoring this for several months, so I'll be curious to see where it ends up going. The workshop that was on the left-hand side of the screen here has been removed. I talked about that in my previous video. But overall, a lot of the materials that have been here have been relocated further to the east. It's kind of like they're clearing out this area. Also, I wanted to show you this. Take a look at the workers next to this particular beam. This gives you a really good idea of the scale of some of these parts. I know it's hard to tell from the drone, but these steel parts are immense. It's another good example is take a look at this semi-truck next to these beams, and this gives you a really good idea of the size of these materials that we are talking about. So let me position the drone up for a good view of the whole south end so you can see how this appears today. Also some work and the appearance across the highway and that material storage as well with the city of Austin in the background. I hope you enjoyed these views of the inside, the views of the lighted cyber berm on the north side, and overall the information and the videos that I presented. Have a great day. Thank you very much for watching. I very much appreciate it.